What's up guys, and welcome to my 6.4 updated Escoffier guide. In this video I'm taking you over everything you do need to know in order to understand and build Escoffier, including an overview on her kit, best weapons, best artifact sets to run, the stats for main sets you want to have, and also what to look out for subsets and overall stat goals. At the very end I will have some general team building ideas. So Escoffier's normal attack string is just a 3 consecutive spear strike string, doesn't actually do anything that you need to know. Her skill has both a tap and hold variant. Tapping it allows her to continuously do AoE cryo damage to nearby opponents, which will also follow nearby active characters, meaning you can switch her out and still have the cryo damage apply. Holding it will instead allow her to place it down, which is not really something you will be doing because all it really does is let you be able to attack it doing elemental damage, and reaching a certain threshold will allow you to get a special dish. So it's not actually doing anything for your gameplay, so you will really always be using the tap one. Escoffier's burst is a AoE crowd damage dealing and also a HP restore to all your team based off Escoffier's own attack. Escoffier's first ascension passive will allow her to gain a buff for 9 seconds, which will restore HP for the nearby active character for 1 second based off her attack after using her elemental burst. Her fourth ascension passive will provide a hydro and cryo res shred based off the amount of characters in your party that are either hydro or cryo, and will apply when using her elemental skill or elemental burst hitting an opponent. So going from 1, 2, 3, 4 hydro or cryo characters, the res shred becomes 5%, 10%, 15%, and 55%. Escoffier's C1 will increase the team's cryo crit damage by 60% for 15 seconds when your entire team is hydro or cryo, and will be applied after Escoffier uses her skill or burst. Her C2 will make it to where when Escoffier uses her tap E, she will gain an effect for 15 seconds. During that time, she will gain 5 cold dish stacks, which will make it to where an active character that is not Escoffier deal cryo damage with a normal charge or plunging or elemental skill or burst, and consume one of the stacks to increase their damage dealt by that attack by 240% of Escoffier's attack. Hitting multiple enemies while you do have the stacks be consumed will also consume stacks based off the amount of enemies you did hit. Her C4 makes it rehab diet last 6 more seconds, which is the healing effect in her first ascension passive. Having it active will give 100% extra HP and restore 2 energy to Escoffier when you do trigger the healing through the rehab diet. The chance is based off Escoffier's current crit rate and can trigger the effect up to 7 times in any one of rehab diet's duration. And for Escoffier's C6, her tap E is enhanced. Anytime your party's active character does a normal charge or plunging attack, Escoffier's E will fire off another attack dealing 500% of Escoffier's attack as AoE crit damage and is considered elemental skill damage. The cooldown for the effect is 0.5 seconds and can be triggered up to 6 times within one duration of her tap E. For Escoffier's weapons, of course, her best one is going to be her own signature weapon, providing both a good amount of base attack and also a lot of crit damage for Escoffier, who is actually still built with crit as she is also a sub DPS. The effect of the weapon increasing attack for Escoffier herself, which is further enhanced when she is off field, which she always will be for the most part unless you are tapping her E or using her ultimate, which you would switch out immediately after anyways. And anyone Escoffier heals with this weapon equipped will increase their attack by 32% for 3 seconds and is also triggered if the character triggering the effect is off field. This is fantastic for not only her own output, since her healing is based off her attack, so you are getting more healing. The crit damage increase is great, so anytime you are dealing damage, she will deal more every time you crit, but also the fact that it provides even more buffing with the attack buff that is applied to anyone she does heal. And her healing isn't exclusive to just the characters that are active. Her ultimate will heal everyone on the team, meaning anyone else doing damage off field that scale off attack or have a buff that does scale off attack such as Shenhe, they will also be getting the effect to increase their overall potential, which makes her signature option her far and none best. Other good 5-star weapons that apply stuff like crit damage or give attack percent such as Staff of Homo or something like Primordial Jade Wing Spear are both great. When using a crit rate weapon, be sure you do not overcap, as Escoffier herself also does ascend with crit rate. You can also very much use a 5-star weapon such as Calamity Queller for its big attack percent that it does provide. Using an energy recharge weapon such as Skyward Spine is also fine, especially for the energy regen it provides, as this really removes most of the needs of your energy recharge rolls, and the effect itself provides some bit of crit rate, so that can help a little bit. For 4-star weapons, Deathmatch is overall going to be the one to go, providing you a massive 36.8% crit rate and increasing attack and defense based off of how many enemies are near you. 2 or more gives 32% attack and defense, and if there's less than 2, so just 1 mainly for a boss, it's 48% attack, so that's increasing her damage and also her healing. Weapons like Favonius Lance also do work. If you are okay with sacrificing a bit of her sub DPS for more energy, ease of use, especially for other characters on the team that might have high energy requirements. Something like the Ohanashi weapon also does work very fine. Mounted Bracing Bolt is also great for the energy recharge it does provide, while also being able to increase elemental skill damage by 12%, which makes Escoffier do a lot more damage, which is also further enhanced by other characters using elemental skill, so you can get up to quite a good amount of more damage for her skill. The newer weapon Sacrificer's Staff is also fantastic, providing crit rate while also being able to increase attack and also energy recharge at the same time, and also does pair with her off-field playstyle as the effect does apply off-field. For artifacts, overall the best one you want to run is the Golden Troop 4-piece, since everything it does increases is great for her sub DPS role. 2-piece provides elemental skill damage, 4-piece further increases that elemental skill damage, and even further increases it if the character is not off-field and is cleared 2 seconds after taking field, which again, you just really go into her, you skill burst, or sometimes you don't even need to burst if you really don't need the healing, and then she's off-field and then you get the full effect of this. So for her own DPS potential that she does contribute throughout the entire battle, where her off-field skill is doing a lot of damage overall, Golden Troop is going to be the one to further enhance it the most out of any other set in the game currently. So if you want to get the best damage output, and honestly the most recommended set for Escoffier herself is just going to be running Golden Troop 4-piece. Tenacity 4-piece is also good if you do want to sacrifice her own personal damage, and if no one else is really running Tenacity already. This is mainly a set you either give to Escoffier or Farina when you are running them on a Skirk team, or even something like an Ayaka team. Usually this would go to Farina, but you can very much put it on Escoffier instead and put someone like Farina on Golden Troop, depends on your investment and whoever you want to run on the sets. But the 2-piece for Escoffier specifically is useless as she doesn't do anything with HP. The 4-piece allows her to increase the team's attack by 20% and shield strength, which usually is not going to really matter, but it's mainly just for the fact that the 4-piece increases the team's attack by 20%, so your main DPS like Skirk or Ayaka is going to get a bigger buff to do more damage. Again, it is at the cost of Escoffier's own personal damage, so a lot of times when it comes to total DPS in a rotation, often something like Golden Troop with Escoffier doing as much damage as possible can honestly outdo. But if you just have really good tenacity pieces for your Escoffier, you can still very much use it. And if you want to get technical, you can run 4-piece Scroll. The only thing this is doing is providing 12% elemental damage bonus for the elemental types that were involved in the reaction. Because the 2-piece, you don't have Night Soul on Escoffier, and the 4-piece for the Night Soul Blessing part, you don't have it. So it's really just for that beginning part of the 4-piece set, which does give elemental damage bonus for the actual elemental types that were involved in the reaction. So mainly in this case, it would be something like Freeze, so you would be buffing Hydro and Cryo. So for a little buffing potential, you can also run 4-piece Scroll. If you need to run 2-piece, you can pick something like 2-piece Golden Troop for the elemental skill damage increase. Combine that with 2-piece attack percent, so you can increase her damage and also increase her overall healing. So 2-piece Unfinished Revelry or 2-piece of the Harmonic Wisme. Same thing with Gladiator, etc, as long as it has a 2-piece attack percent increasing sets. Or you can do one of those and combine it with something that increases cryo damage, or it's 2-piece, so 2-piece Finale also works, or 2-piece Blizzard Sir, as they both have the 2-piece increase in cryo damage by 15%. So if you want to run 2-piece, those would be the main ones to go. If you're really struggling on energy recharge, then you can run a 2-piece that provides energy recharge, such as 2-piece Emblem. Although that's only if you're really down bad. For the main sets you want to run, for the Sands, attack percent is usually always going to be the best. However, if you're struggling for energy recharge and you want to be sure you have her burst up for when you need it, running an energy recharge Sands can also work. For the Goblet, crowd damage is going to be the best. However, if you have a really good attack percent Goblet, you can run attack percent. That's only if you really want something like a bigger heal, but usually crowd damage percent is always going to be the best, especially since she is adding up a lot of damage throughout a rotation. And for the Circlet, you will run crit rate or crit damage corresponding to which one you would need more. And then for substack goals, so depending on how you are going with her whole burst, if you want to make sure it is actively ready every rotation, usually on a Escoffier team she is going to be going on Freeze, as that's really her best teams. So often with another cryo character on the team, getting around 140 to 150% energy recharge is going to be great. If you have another cryo on the team, so if you have 3 cryo, then you would only really need around 130 to 140%. If you have anyone on the team or Escoffier herself holding Favonius weapons, in that case you can subtract around 5 to 10% energy recharge for your total requirement. If you're running her on a more wonky team where she's kind of just doing cryo app, so not really a freeze team and she's just kind of there for cryo app, no one else is really there, then the energy recharge you would make sure to have is around 170 to 180%. Her burst is actually important, especially when you're using her with something like a C0 Farina on a freeze team, which is one of the most commons. On a team like that with a C0 Farina where you do want to stack her fanfare, so you do need another healer, Escoffier is going to be the one for that role, so having energy recharge is important. But if you have a high invested in Farina, or you are just not using Farina on the team and you don't really think you need the burst at all. So if you're really thinking you can just avoid all the attacks, in that case, you can just completely ignore energy recharge. It's mainly important for people that want to make sure the burst is ready for when they do need the heal, or as long as they can burst every rotation to get the hit in, and also be sure they're fully healed, and then again, emergency heal if you do need it. And then with a C0 Farina, to stack her fanfare, you want to make sure the burst is ready on Escoffier, as that would be the really only source of healing you would have on that team. So in that case, you would need to build energy recharge, but if you're not running her in those cases, you can actually just completely ignore energy recharge if you want. Past that, it is primarily going to be focusing on crit to get a good crit ratio. For a generally good crit ratio, having around 85% crit rate minimum is going to be good. Closest to 100% as possible is going to be ideal. You want to make sure all your hits are critting, so just getting it to as close as 100% as possible would be the best. For crit damage, getting it around 180% is also fine. And then past that would be focusing on attack percent. When you are in battle, to ensure her attack is around 2000 generally is going to be great for her own damage and also her healing if you care about that. So again, crit rate around 85%, crit damage around 180%, and attack around 2000. And finally, for some general team building. So Escoffier is best on the freeze teams. That is where she is made to really be used. So of course, the best team is going to be freeze. So the sample best Skirk team overall, quote unquote, is going to be this. Of course, you can make some arguments to sub out Shenna for someone else, but it would look roughly like this. So you can replace Shenna with someone like Sitlali. You can replace her with someone like Mona, Yellen, Xingqiu, so on. Ideally, when you are using Escoffier, you just want to make sure the entire team is Cryo and Hydro, as that's how you will max out her actual Shred passive to get the best damage output. And then on Skirk team specifically, you would always want to make sure they are that. Skirk is there to be the primary DPS, so to ensure the full requirements of both these characters, you would want everyone to be Hydro or Cryo. You can also run the same team with Ayaka, just sub out Skirk as the main DPS, of course, for Ayaka. So you can just go ahead, put her on there, and then the team would look like this. If you're subbing out Farina, of course, you would want to run someone else that can apply Hydro at a good rate. So someone like Yellen works great. Mona can honestly work fine. Xingqiu is technically the best for a Hydro app, so running those characters as a Farina replacement does work. And then as I mentioned for Shenna, you can sub her out for the same characters really. It really just depends on balancing your amount of Cryo and Hydro. 2 Hydro, 2 Cryo is completely fine. You don't have to run 3 Cryo like this. So again, you could sub out Shenna for one of the characters I did mention that were Hydro, such as Yelan, Xingqiu, Mona, so on and so forth. If you want to run her as a character for Melt, I don't personally recommend this because there is just overall better options, but you could run her alongside the main character that is going to be proccing the Melts. So in my case, I'm just going to put Arlecchino if I could find her. There she is. So that. If you're using Malvika, you could use her there instead. Then for a good shredder, you could use someone like Shalonen. Shalonen would work good here, as you only really just need to attack that once and then you have the shred active. Last slot could go to someone like Bennett. Bennett would work good just because he doesn't have the off-field pyro that would be stealing the melt. So Arlecchino kind of just has free reign here. If you are using Malvika instead, you can just replace Arlecchino with Malvika. That's only the general team idea I'm going to give, just because I don't necessarily recommend using Escoffier as a cryo app. At that point, just pull someone like Sitlali, or really use anyone else, because she's only really providing the fact that she is able to provide cryo app, which a lot of other characters can do, and also that emergency heal if you would need it on the team. So I don't necessarily recommend it, but if you want a general team, you can use it like that. She is, once again, made for freeze teams. I also want to mention this just because it is one of my favorite teams, and it actually does work quite well depending on your situation, and that is a team with Neuvillette. This team is primarily for C0 Neuvillette, so the team would be Escoffier herself, Neuvillette, Farina, and then the last slot is going to go to Sitlali. I don't have Sitlali, so pretend the last slot is Sitlali, but she would be a shielder that ensures your Neuvillette at C0 doesn't get knocked back, because at C1, you don't have a need for a shield. Or if you're based and you were doing what I was doing in the background footage and run possibly my favorite team in the game, which is the Skirk quick swap team with Neuvillette. It's literally just Skirk's best team, except the last slot is Neuvillette, and you play Skirk in a burst playstyle or a quick swap playstyle. Pretty much you just open up with Neuvillette, do your stuff with the Escoffier Farina, consume the rifts with Skirk by holding E and then ult with her. Once her ult is done, you immediately just swap into Neuvillette. You can E again if it's off cooldown, use your ult and then just do your beams, and then you can repeat. It's not Neuvillette's best team, it's not Skirk's best team, it's just fun. So if you have the units, you can very much do it. It actually is very strong. And that does wrap up the full 6.4 Escoffier guide. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the types of Genshin Impact content. And I'll see you later. Peace out.